Hey there, my friend. How are you? I'm doing good. My name's Daniel, aka the Drum Coach, and I am so happy you could join me today here on Drummer Daily, the podcast for you if you're a drummer. Or I have heard from a few of you who are not drummers, but you still enjoy the podcast. I guess most of what we talk about outside of these, specific playing related subjects could relate to pretty much any musician, and maybe even outside the realms of being a musician. But anyway, I'm happy that you're here, no matter who you are and what your situation is. I'm just happy that you've chosen to spend another day with me talking about drums in the music business, trying to become a professional musician and all that kind of stuff. So today I have a question from Bradley. And before I read his question, or actually he has two questions, but before I do, I just want to let you know, if you would like for me to talk about any specific topic here on the podcast, or you have a question that you want to get my opinion on, and of course it's just my opinion, just my perspective. I'm not ever going to present things that I say are, for the most part, I try not to present things that are cut and dry and saying, if this is the way it is, I'm right, everyone else is wrong. I try not to say things that way. Every once in a while I do feel that way, and I'll let you know if I do. But anyway, if you'd like to get my opinion or perspective on something, just send me an email, daniel@danielhadaway.com, and I'll do my best to work it in on the show. Incidentally, these questions, I love getting the questions, and right now I'm kind of there's a backlog of questions. I got a lot of questions to answer. So if you don't hear back from me right away, it's not because I'm not going to answer. It's just that I try to at least somewhat answer the questions in the order I receive them. And so it's like some of the questions I'm answering here, like the ones today, and then ones in the next few episodes. These are several months have gone by since you've written in. So apologies for that. Just want to let you know, have a good expectation about when I will be able to answer your question if you do write in. Anyway, today's question is from Bradley. Like I mentioned, there's two questions. So he says, this is what Bradley says. He says, what is the main key to becoming a pro drummer? Also, what kind of drums do you use? The one question is a lot easier than the other. So I'll answer the easy one first. The kind of drums that I use currently, when I have a choice, are drums made by a company called ANF Drum Co. And I think you can find them at ANFDrumCo.com. So the letter N, F, so ANFDrumCo.com. That's the drums that I play. They're the best drums I've ever played in my life. I'm proud to play those drums. I haven't had a situation since I've started playing them where I needed a certain sound and couldn't get it with those drums. I have a couple of snares. I have a 5x14 raw brass snare of theirs, and I also have a Rude Boy. I believe it's a 3x10 snare drum as well that I use for certain situations. But I can pretty much cover a majority of what I need there. I do have a few other drums that I throw in from time to time in the studio that aren't made by ANF. But I honestly would say 99.5% of the time I'm using just those ANF drums. So hopefully that helps you out. But your other question was, what is the main key to becoming a pro drummer? And this is something that I've actually, I don't know if I've presented it this way before, but it is something that there's a concept that I think is the main characteristic, main key, main thing you've got to have going on in order to become a pro drummer. And I do want to add before I talk about this, that I understand there are going to be some parts of your path, like there were in mine, to becoming a pro drummer that are outside of your control. And a lot of times, our perception of those things that are out of our control, good things or bad things, the bad things make it seem like becoming a pro drummer or pro musician is impossible if it's out of our control, because it's something we can't change. And the good things, if they do happen and they're not in our control, make us think, man, we're just lucky. And those are the reasons why we had any success in the first place. And I just want to let you know that in any situation, you shouldn't put too much weight on things you can't control. There's no point in it. And everyone has unique challenges and unique advantages that are outside of their control. So let's don't focus on those things, because you can't fix them, you can't change them. But there's so much about your drum career, your music career, whatever it is that you're doing, that you do have control over. And what I want to talk to you about today is the one that I think is the most important and is the most versatile, and will actually, like I said, is like Bradley asks, is the main key to becoming a pro drummer. And it's this. It's the term or the word awareness, or self-awareness is really what I'm getting at here. What do I mean by that? Well, there's two different ways right off the bat that I can think of. There's probably a lot more how it can apply to you. The first way I like to think about awareness, and a way that you need to be aware as a professional musician or an aspiring professional musician or whatever you're doing, is in your playing. I will tell you, there are so many drummers, even really, really great ones that I've worked with, who if they play something really cool, or a really cool pattern or something, and then I say, hey, great, that was awesome, can you play it for me again? They'll play it for me again, and it will not even be the same thing. It'll be kind of the same, but not really the same. Or there's a lot of clinicians, guys who make a living off of just touring around and doing drum clinics at drum shops and stuff like that. There's one I'm talking about particularly, but I won't mention it by name. There's a DVD that I have where the drummer is talking about some kind of cool riff kind of chop that you can use, or a drum lick that you can use, and how it can work into a lot of different musical situations. And he, in the video, plays it really slow, like you should, I guess, to explain, here's how you play that pattern, here's how it looks slowly, so you kind of get the feel for it. And then he slowly speeds it up, and then he tries to show it to you at full speed. And I guess it's my pet peeve, but when he does that in the video, and he's not the only one to do this, I've actually seen several drummers do this in clinics, when they speed up and play full speed to play that pattern, that thing, that lick, it changes. They don't actually play the thing that they were just showing you to play slowly. It's almost like they're not even aware of the fact that they're not doing the thing they told you. But there's just so much about drumming, because drumming is a very physical thing. You move a lot of limbs, a lot of your hands and your fingers and your toes and your ankles and everything in between. A lot in drumming. There's a lot going on when you're playing drums, and it's easy to have a few pieces of that whole equation fall through the cracks and not be something you're paying attention to, I guess. And the problem with that is there's a lot of things that you might be doing as a drummer that just plain aren't good, or are not being under control. And so from a playing perspective, just having awareness, being able to sit and know and see and perceive what you're doing on the drum kit while you're playing down to the finest detail, is huge. You can. That's probably the one thing that, if without years and years of practicing it, one thing or another, that's probably the one way that you can become a better drummer instantly. Honestly, your drumming will improve right away the second you can, or as long as you can, keep yourself aware of your playing. Now, there's another part of awareness, or another kind of awareness, that's equally as important and is probably even more ignored than the awareness in our playing. And that is the self-awareness of just yourself and how you come across in, for lack of a better word, social situations. What do I mean? Well, I'm talking about where you might find yourself flash forward to maybe where you're in a situation where you get to have a recording session and you're with a bunch of other musicians. The networker in you, or the idea that, we've been told we need to network as musicians to help get more gigs and all that stuff, can lead you to maybe act differently than you really are in a bad way. So try to tell too many jokes, or try to be outgoing when it doesn't come across as natural. And I'm not trying to tell you to be overly analytical of yourself in social situations. That's a whole different kind of anxiety that you can bring on. I don't want you to do that. But you do need to kind of practice and work on the awareness of how you're sitting in a social situation, where you're at. So there was a guy, I found myself in a studio situation not too long ago, where there was someone else there who I'd never met before, didn't know who he was, and that's not abnormal in a big town like Nashville. But I didn't know that I later came to find out, but I also learned it on my own, or decided on my own this was the case. But I later found out that he was a new guy. He had not done many sessions, if any. He was kind of a brand new guy, kind of wet behind the ears. And I didn't know this when I showed up, and right at first I didn't know that this was the case, but I quickly kind of in my own mind thought this must be what's happening here, because he, if you're not naturally outgoing socially, but you feel like you need to network and you have the motivation at least to force yourself to do it, what will happen is you will end up doing what this guy did, which is kind of following people around, but not having conversations with people, not really being active in what's going on, and not really talking or being involved at all. And it kind of gave me a weird vibe, because it's like there's this person who just follows people around and puts themselves in situations, but doesn't want to talk. It kind of sat weird. And I was like, well, this guy has been told he needs to network, so he needs to be around people. And there's more to it than that I don't want to get into detail-wise about how he was acting. But it gave me the vibe that he was trying so hard to network, but didn't have the social tools, hadn't worked on the social tools enough to be involved. And I don't mean you need to change who you are, but what I mean is you can work on being better at just having conversations with strangers, listening to, asking other people probing questions and letting them talk and understand and learn from others. None of this was happening. If he had had a little more self-awareness, he would say, hey, look, if I'm going to be around and follow someone around and I'm here in the studio as a musician, I should, try to be social a little bit. This guy didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't like he was a fine player. He did the job. But if I was going to look at hiring him again, I might hesitate to hire him, not because of his playing, but because it was kind of a weird hang. If all things were equal playing wise, I'd probably pick someone who was a little bit better to hang around. Even if he was a little bit better than other people, I'd probably still pick the person who is better to hang around with in this situation. So if you want to know what the main key is to being a professional drummer, it's awareness. Being aware of your own playing, being plugged in. Don't zone out while you're drumming. Don't let certain parts of your drumming go on autopilot where you just always do the same things at the same times. Be aware of your playing, but kind of be aware of yourself, socially speaking as well. And you'll be right on your way to becoming a better drummer at least. And I believe that if you can get a lock on the self-awareness piece, you will find yourself in much higher demand as a musician than if you're not aware. So hopefully that helps you out. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Drummer Daily. I can't wait to hang out with you again, and hopefully that'll be really soon. But we're done for today. So bye for now.